Hello, welcome to another story time with yours truly Poetic Psychic Pisces HighPriestess. Thank you all for listening and watching. Please like, share, subscribe and comment because that is your free way to show your support to help grow my channel. Today's story time is entitled, The Secret Life of a Child Star and the Rejects Left Behind. This is an original fact/fiction story created by myself. Please govern yourselves accordingly and use your own discernment as serious topics are revealed in this story that could be triggering to some. Furthermore, please keep in mind this is for your entertainment purposes only. Thank you. Now without further ado, let's get to today's story time. The Secret Life of a Child Star.
Secret Life of a Child Star and the Rejects Left Behind. Introduction. Childhood should be the best years of a little one's life. Although everything may not be as perfect as it should be, when unfortunately some come from broken homes, with the inability to understand life's changes and obstacles and only a young mind to guide them. Somehow, children often just find a way to cope by way of other means of distraction, a form of escapism to relinquish the scattered feelings buried inside. It is common for a kid to naturally embrace creative or artistic things as a way of expression, and surely a good parent should be supportive of their child's interests. But when young people have parents whose dreams were a flop due to their own decisions in life, then oftentimes parents are overly eager to live through the life of their children, forcibly pushing their ideals and goals through them once discovering their talents, skills, and abilities. Soon enough, an excitingly fun hobby for the child is turned into profitable benefit for the parents, which is exploited for their own ill wills and financial gain. Make or break talent. In today's world of ever-growing expansions of the World Wide Web, people no longer need the permission, approval, or acknowledgement of professionals, nor do they need to go through talent agencies to display their talent, skills, or abilities. So more often than not, young people flock to social media to connect with others and share their creative endeavors. Many parents take advantage of that opportunity by forcing their child to get on certain platforms at an early age to perform and appear perfect to their unlimited audience of viewers. The most common operation of a momager, controlling things from behind the scenes, with the hopes of their child gaining a massive following large enough for them to go viral. A strict competition with themselves and others to be better than the last content posted, increasing their chances of being discovered by powerful persons in the entertainment industry. Besides the online hustle and bustle, some parents even go a step further and make arrangements for their children to enter talent show competitions as well as perform at local events. Anything to get their child seen publicly, no matter how they feel about it. Never mind the fact that such obsessive and elaborate efforts often disinterest the child and drain them of their natural driven energy to partake in any artistic pursuit that they may have had. Their motivation solely becomes a matter of pleasing and appeasing their parents with the efforts to try not to disappoint them for fear of consequence. Jesse Barbs experienced this very thing. He was just a 9-year-old Caucasian boy from Fairbanks, Alaska, which is only a 3-day, 3-hour drive from Canada, a place his family visited often when his life began to change forever. Meanwhile, little Jesse was only trying to cope with his parents' devastating separation, so he embraced his creativity very early in life. While still in elementary school, Jesse found interest in playing instruments and singing. An innocent love of music was therapeutic to the young boy just looking to belong in a world that seemed so dull, depressing, and cold. At the time, Jesse's highest hopes was to just fit in and make some new friends. But before long, what was once only an artistic hobby wildly spiraled out of control. Simply enough, while Jesse continued to embrace his creativity, he shared his artistic expression with others, like his newfound friends and family, which vastly grew the more his family motivated and encouraged him to continue posting content online. Jesse's mother, however, was very persistent about pushing him to go over and beyond so he gained more followers, with the hopes of monetizing his channel platform for income. All of a sudden, Jesse's innocent passions were turned into a means for making him a provider for the family. Basically, what was once motivational, inspirational, and fun turned into a demand very quickly. Nevertheless, Jesse eagerly put on a brave face and continued doing what by now felt expected of him. Balancing childhood blues, singing his woes, juggling school, and a social life became very challenging. Yet Jesse, with a brave heart in mind, seemingly managed very well. At least from outer appearances, that is. Truthfully, Jesse still endured hardships behind the scenes at home in his personal life. His mother, Patricia Mallory, was a struggling single mother making do the best way she knew how, even though times were often hard making ends meet, which unfortunately reflected harshly on how she treated her children. Not by coincidence, but Jesse became the meal ticket that could take the family out of poverty. Between the burdens, hardships, problematic situations, arguments, and loveless abusive relationships, Mominger was becoming of Patricia, which greatly grew on her. Now seeing her hopes, wishes, and dreams through little Jesse, who by now was the internet's heartthrob. His fan base grew rapidly with every heartfelt post he created. But behind closed doors, when the cameras went off, Jesse had a hard knock life that no one was aware of. As if having an absent, neglectful father wasn't bad enough, it only added to the pain of the physical and emotional abuse Jesse endured as well. Furthermore, between the beatings, loneliness, and homework, Jesse sang his sorrows away, taking his built up rage out on every keystroke of his guitar. Ironically enough, Jesse's father, Jimmy Jacob Barbs, never seemed to have much of an interest in his son. That is, until he caught wind of his son's newfound ambitions and achievements as an internet sensation. Only then did it seem like Jesse's parents were ever in agreement on anything, pushing their son into stardom for their own personal financial gain. Regardless of the pressure, for a moment, Jesse actually thought perhaps that would be the miraculous answer to his prayers. Becoming a recording artist could rid him of his burdens at home. But how sadly mistaken his young, naive mind was, for he had no idea of what was yet to come. But Jesse put his skills to the test every day, working on his craft to get better and better as he went along. Practice makes perfect, his mother Patricia would say. Thankfully, Jesse was pretty smart as a young boy, as well as vastly creative. His talents, skills, and abilities ranged from singer songwriter, playing the guitar, as well as other instruments as well. He even learned to dance a little. But most importantly, Jesse was a sweet, kind, soft spoken, baby faced, Cabbage Patch doll looking young boy that won the hearts of so many peers his age and beyond, all around the world. Jesse was only 10 years old by now, but he had that starseed rainbow child spark in him that gave him that zing the industry was looking for. In a very short period of time, Jesse was catapulted into the spotlight of success as his following continued to grow into the hundreds of thousands, later climbing its way to a million plus supporters, something which greatly pleased his parents, who were only supporting him for their own personal gain. Patricia and Jimmy pushed Jesse far more than he could have ever imagined possible. Then, out of nowhere, one fateful day, the phone calls and emails began to flood in from talent scouts, shows, and other interested in working with Jesse Barbs. It was unbelievable. Jesse, as well as his family, were blown away. They were ecstatic and couldn't believe he had finally been noticed on a major scale. It was the tip of the iceberg for a brand new beginning as a very wealthy person. And people high up in power now had their eyes on little Jesse Barbs. Many were intrigued by Jesse's skills and abilities, as were they eager to offer him opportunities for advancement. Meanwhile, the calls, emails, and offers continued to pour in. People from various destinations were even calling for Jesse to appear on talent shows, but Momager Patricia said the family couldn't afford to travel, miss school, or work for long periods of time. Not to mention, Jesse's parents had their intentions set on more lucrative possibilities available for him at this point. The sky was the limit, Patricia expressed to Jesse, as other collaborations came rushing in as well. But it was the biggest opportunity of all that presented itself next that changed Jesse Barbs and his family's life forever. On a mildly fogged and gloomy, seemingly normal day after school, Jesse returned home to cheerful, unexpected news from his mom, Patricia, who expressed she had some good information to share. Apparently, Patricia had been in communication with a major artist by the name of Ushlin Rouse, personal assistant and manager, pertaining to the artist desiring to meet and possibly work with Jesse. It was unfathomable, but for the first time, Jesse actually saw his mother delightfully happy. It was as if her hopes, wishes, and dreams had just came true. Obviously, conversations prolonged over a period of time to schedule a meet and greet between Jesse and Ushlin Rao, who is a famous R&B pop artist. Jesse could just barely humble his excitement as arrangements were made. It was the start of something massively spectacular beginning for Jesse and his family. When the meeting finally happened, Jesse and his parents met with Ushlin Rao, his team, and a talent scout manager by the name of Scott Branson. It was a pleasant meeting as Ushlin and Scott discussed with the family about Jesse attending a studio recording with a close friend of theirs who is also a talent scout and producer by the name of Larry Reeves. Ushlin was very interested in investing into Jesse, training, coaching, and preparing him for recording his first album single. This was a big deal for Jesse at only 11 years old. Without hesitation, his parents had no problem obliging to the agreement and pushing him to do it after the discussion of how much they'd be compensated for allowing Jesse to do so. At the end of the day, it was more about what Jesse's parents decided rather than what he wanted or was willing to do. Bottom line, the deal and agreement was made, technically without Jesse's opinion on the matter, yet he was still ecstatic about the whole ordeal. He just kind of nervously went along with what was being told to him. It seemed the choices about Jesse's future was already decided by his parents and other influential individuals outside third parties that apparently knew what was in his best interest. At this point, Jesse's talents were being exploited for the benefit of others after his parents basically sold him out for money. Even though Jesse Barbs went on to record a number one top rated single in 2009 called On Time that made him instantly famous like never before. From that moment forward, Ushlin Ralph was a handler of Jesse Barbs for a while, teaching him other skills, techniques, and about the music industry. Ushlin's job was to groom, train, coach, and mold Jesse Barbs into a child superstar as he once was himself. When Jesse began to travel frequently, Ushlin was given temporary custody of him while being mentored. Jesse's parents literally, freely, willingly, and gladly signed their parental rights over to the entertainment industry, in all parties working with Jesse. Child labor. It seemed within a blink of an eye, Jesse's life had abruptly changed. He had gone from a little boy just trying to express himself to a popular internet sensation and now an insta-famous child star practically overnight. Jesse Barbs was now a hot commodity and essentially the product of the industry. His family was now living a better life due to his success, considering his parents received a large amount of money for him when they signed the contract. Patricia, Jesse's mother, controlled all of his money from that point on. She collected every dime he made from his hard work as a child and used it for herself as she saw fit. Unbeknownst to Jesse, it was like he was having to pay his parents back just for being born and they allowing him to become a child star. Nevertheless, Jesse worked tirelessly while still attending school, and yet he never saw a penny of his own money in all his childhood years. Everything he needed or asked for was provided or issued to him like an oddly satisfying privilege that was given from time to time for him being a good boy. Meanwhile, more and more was demanded of him daily, as he was groomed by the best in the entertainment music industry. During which time, Jesse lived with his assigned celebrity handlers and mentors like a visiting foreign exchange student who spoiled him. They also spent countless hours coaching, training, and drilling him on every aspect of the performing arts. And the nightmare begins. Jesse Barbs encountered many other very wealthy, popular superstar celebrities that flaunted themselves at him every given chance, which definitely left a lasting impression and effect on him forever. Not to mention all the precarious things he was introduced to along the way. Jesse found out all too soon just how sneaky, freaky, and creepy the industry could be behind the scenes, and was promptly vowed to silence. It was the wonderland which no one within shall dare speak of any evil he or she saw, heard, or endured for fear of fierce consequences. After Scott Branson and Ushlin Ralph discovered Jesse Barbs, Ushlin was his handler for a number of years, during which time Jesse worked with several prominent individuals that contributed to excelling his career, like Larry Reeves, Shondelyn Poppy Cummings, and a whole host of other R&B, pop, rap, and country artists, all of whom mentored Jesse until his first major contract deal was signed with Worldwide Records at age of 12. Scott Branson managed his career throughout his younger teen years in conjunction with Ushlin Ralph. Stardom was glamorously overwhelming, and gradually Jesse saw his family less and less. It was amazing how the entertainment industry could just control every aspect of his life, literally using and or working him however they liked without his parents' supervision. Although Jessie had a magnetic connection with what seemed like every teen girl around the world, he was actually quite naive and shy. But during Jesse's grooming phase within the entertainment industry, he saw, heard, learned, and experienced a lot that ultimately shaped and molded his character and career into who and what the industry wanted him to be. Soon enough, Jesse Barbs was no longer the little bashful boy from Fairbanks, Alaska, as his fierce climb to fame and fortune awarded him with luxurious accommodations amongst some of the biggest, most famous artists in the business. With Jesse being graced with the privilege of living with very wealthy celebrities when he first was signed, until his family relocated closer, he encountered very eye opening experiences, which were vastly different from what was displayed publicly for the masses at a distance watching. When the lights, cameras, and actions weren't rolling and the paparazzi weren't trolling, things got rather sketchy behind closed mansion doors. Nevertheless, it's mind boggling just what kind of things child stars are exposed to. As well, are they sworn to secrecy and forbidden from speaking out publicly about any private affairs? However, in conjunction with the grooming process, the brainwashing and mind control is implemented almost immediately on young impressionables. A popular demand by higher ups to maintain order, control, and dictatorship over the young and up and coming stars. As if there were ever any doubts about the order of operations in the industry, it is quickly understood by newcomers that the entertainment world is immensely run, ruled, and controlled by way of manipulation, domination, and intimidation. The shadow side of fame and fortune. Although there are several other child stars that at some point come together to mix and mingle for fun at designated times for particular occasions, it is widely known that any given child star, just like Jesse Barbs, is bombarded by the presence of adults the majority of the time. From adult artists, producers, directors, journalists, hosts, managers, handlers, personal staff, assistants, bodyguards, drivers, publicists, agents, teachers, tutors, mentors, coaches, choreographers, guardians, maids, nannies, etc. A kid just can't be a kid in the entertainment world when your childhood is ripped from you the very moment a child star's parents signs their name on the dotted line of a contract, accept a payout, and hand them over to the industry. From that point on, it's not even negotiable, and life as they knew it before is never the same ever again. Furthermore, for the average Joe or Jane or fan, living with a celebrity might seem like a dream come true. But in all actuality, they couldn't even begin to imagine just how surreal it really is. A young mind is blown when living in a celebrity stranger's home, especially after dark when things go bump in the night. For a child star like Jesse Barbs, there is a very strict, vigorous daily schedule. All of Jesse's time, just like many others, was consumed with maintaining a perfectly unbalanced ratio between school and work. Having an actual career as a kid isn't easy, and the people they work with aren't lenient. While some child stars attend specialized uppity prep schools for the wealthy, many others are homeschooled for various reasons. On average, a child star is kept busy for roughly 15 hours a day. During the week, it's 5 hours of school and 10 hours of work. On the weekends, however, many long, tiring hours are spent working on their craft. Not to mention all the after hours special engagements child stars are expected and summoned to attend. And when home, even their temporary live in situations with their handler guardians can sometimes be unnerving when there are gatherings, get togethers, dinner parties, or celebrations of any kind are going on. Because of this, Jesse, just like many other child stars, were exposed at a very young age to heavy drug and alcohol use, sexual situations, and toxic behaviors. It was frightfully apparent that abuse of power ran rampant in celebrity status circles. All the adults did whatever they wanted very carefree and recklessly, even in the presence of minors. But the brainwashed child stars did what they were told or triggered to do, and no one cared to stop them from exploiting the young people they were in the company of, almost as if such behavior is accepted and expected amongst the rich and famous. Furthermore, oftentimes the underage child stars were reminded never to speak about anything, as they were threatened that if they did, it would be very severe consequences like losing their contracts, never performing again, getting their parents in legal trouble, being stripped of wealth, or even something worse like someone getting hurt. Something in which, for the most part, scared the living shit out of the kids. However, it was a little easier for those born into the industry by celebrity parents. They endured the same, but they were used to it as they had been trained from birth to conform and obey. Many remained scared straight unless they had a complete manic mental breakdown, which did happen with some from time to time, in which case handlers had a protocol for that as well. They'd just be sent away and disappear for a little while, meanwhile being hidden in fancy high-end mind control facilities, of which some very wickedly creepy staff worked. such as viciously demonic nurses, the Dr. Evil types, mad scientists, military officials, CIA agents, and even hypnotists or illusionists. Whereas they endured trauma based mind control, waterboarded, and other forms of torture, raped, as were they experimented on, implemented with tracking chips, severely drugged, brainwashed, and reprogrammed yet again. It's not uncommon for child stars to be taken to underground cloning labs where they are threatened that if they remained unruly, then they'd just be replaced. Handlers even warned them that even their parents were aware of the possibilities of such things happening to them if and when their child ever got out of line and refused fulfilling his or her contract. It is all in black and white fine print per the contractual agreement that was made. Essentially, that means the child stars are trapped indefinitely with no way out. Thus is one of many reasons child stars are kept under the influence of heavy substances, whether prescription drugs or otherwise, which is often mandated for many of them, but for others is slipped into their food or drinks without their knowledge. Regardless of their age, child stars are treated like adults and expected to act as such. Meanwhile, their cruel, greedy parents turn a blind eye to all the suspicious, abusive things they are well aware is going on. Betrayal of their own children for the love of money. One way in and no way out. By the age of roughly around 14 years old, Jesse Barbs was used to being manipulated. He had learned the cold hearted truth about the shady side of the entertainment world, as did he learn the hard way love doesn't love nobody. He may have been rather timid at first, but he was far from dumb. Jesse caught on very quickly to the games being played all around him, how he was being used, and the endless lies, deceptions, and false promises. Although his handlers and mentors instilled a level of fear in him that kept him compliant, he swiftly figured out how to tread carefully. Shamefully, it seemed that everyone he encountered used him for what they wanted in their own ill wills. Even Ushlin Ralph, who Jesse once looked up to and thought he could trust. But Ushlin took advantage of little Jesse and paved the way for others to do the same. It was as if Ushlin Ralph and manager Scott Branson were tag team partners for a while, using him, then passing him along to yet another. The masterminds behind other collaborations for Jesse Barb's career to skyrocket, which they greatly financially benefited from. It was then when Jesse was introduced to celebrities like Shondaland Poppy Cummins, who is a wealthy producer, songwriter, manager, amongst his many other titles. Jesse had met him before, attended studio sessions, and spent weekend rendezvous at his mansions, but now Jesse was being sent to Shondaland Cummins' Poppy Fabulous Camp for up and coming superstars. It was supposed to be like an internship job training for building performance skills, but it was no such thing as to what Jesse was convinced it would be. The week was spent at one of Poppy's mansions, and Jesse's life wasn't quite going to be the same there afterwards. Shondaland, however, spoiled him, offered lavish gifts, made empty promises, and doted on him. He even bragged about how Ushland, who had custody of Jesse at the time, had given him temporary custody of Jesse for the week of supposed fabulous camp, which he was eerily happy about. It was one of those weird moments where Shondaland seemed way too eager to emphasize his power and control over Jesse. It looked like a million creepy, freaky thoughts were pondering through his brain of ways to use, abuse, or exploit him while talking casually and just being in the company of Jesse, who by now felt highly uncomfortable, but kept his composure and just bottled up his nervous thoughts, feelings, and emotions due to the fact he had just been pimped out by his handler, Ushlin, to Shondaland for a week he'd never forget. Even though there were other teens, both males and females, around, Jesse found himself and only one other person being the only little white boy surrounded by a bunch of mostly black men in the industry. It was like a week-long party that never ended. There were plenty of other adults too, both male and female, that came and went. Also, but Jesse couldn't help but feel like the oddball out of the group while attending parties and studio sessions with full grown, shirtless, greasy, sweaty men who got high and drunk all throughout the day and night. Jesse and other teens there were made to perform and partake in festivities whether they wanted to or not. No matter where Jesse went or with whom, he was being used, and the people around him didn't really respect boundaries or him at all. They just wanted him for their own ill wills. Jesse was introduced to many different street drugs and encouraged to get high and drink alcohol, which he did just to be obedient. He also was groomed in various different ways, molested, and pressured into sexual favors like oral sex. At first, the young stars there in attendance were pushed and peer pressured into sexual interactions with each other while being recorded. Then, adult prostitutes were paid to service the child stars like Jesse. Eventually, before the end of the week, he was drugged and raped by male celebrities and other random affiliates in the industry that had been casually invited over. All this time, it was like Jesse had been being worked up to this very big bang all along. Up until that very moment, he was used to being manhandled or fondled and fellatio being requested of him. But that week at Poppy's fabulous camp was the precursor to everything else that was yet to come. When it was all said and done, for the moment, Jesse lay there naked and afraid, still high out of his mind. But he knew then for sure all the people he was in the company of didn't care about him at all. But who could he tell? It wasn't even a race thing either, like poor little white boy getting picked on. No. As a matter of fact, many other young people were treated just the same. The problem was, this kind of behavior is commonplace in the entertainment industry and is literally expected by everyone who is there. Ironically, most of the adults in the industry are married or even have some kind of partner, whether it's a girlfriend or boyfriend. Yet even they participate and or are aware of what's going on and just turn a blind eye. Jesse was dumbfounded by the fact he was being passed around like a little Raggedy Ann doll, yet it was the adults' pleasure, and they were more than happy to oblige. What was obviously messed up is it was like the industry used black artists first to break him in, and then he was just tossed aside and passed to white or other race predators in the industry as well. When they were done with him, the entertainment industry has a sick, twisted fetish with turning boys out and feminizing men. But of course, in the midst of it all, Barb's was showered with expensive gifts, and his career blossomed outstandingly while being promised many other things like expensive cars, etc. Apparently, that's the cost to pay the Pied Piper for having fame and fortune, Jesse sadly thought. Jesse Barbs was at the top of the charts, and he was famously known worldwide, even though at the time all of his riches were taken by those who only used him for money. Meanwhile, obviously, Ushlin Ralph served his purpose by breaking Jesse in, because it wasn't long before he eventually just kicked Jesse to the curb like he was nothing more than yesterday's leftovers or sloppy seconds. In that moment, Jesse, being tapped into his sensitive water zodiac sign energy, knew in an instant just how every girl must have felt every time a guy whispered sweet nothings in her ear, saying whatever she wanted to hear just to only use her for sex and then dumped her. Because that's exactly how Ushlin Ralph unremorsefully left Jesse feeling. However, the breakups didn't end there because Jesse's manager, Scott Branson, even had his issues and was dismissed from being his manager as well. By the age of 15 years old, Jesse Barbs was under new management at Center Stage Entertainment and with a new manager by the name of Louis Tatum. Things from outer appearances looked promising, career-wise anyway, as Jesse was yet and still at the top of his game and the charts, as was he, prosperously thriving. But behind the scenes, things began to crumble as his circumstances started to take a toll on Jesse's mental stability. He coped with his situation and hostile environment in the best way he could. However, despite his best efforts to conceal his feelings and emotions, eventually Jesse started to express himself boldly. Classic toxic rich teen behavior as far as the public could tell. But truthfully, Jesse was a victim of his toxic environment and experiencing a nervous breakdown. The things he saw, knew, and endured were beginning to be too much for him to bear. Some things were simply an annoyance, like constantly being bombarded by paparazzi, never having any privacy or personal space, public scrutiny, and feeling invaded and violated. Frankly, all those things were manageable, but it was the secret hidden things that kept him up at night. Jesse was overwhelmed with the effects of being used, abused, violated, manipulated, and controlled, which pushed him over the edge. By his late teens, Jesse was addicted to drugs and alcohol and had experienced heartbreak due to bad, toxic, failed relationships with arranged partners, all of which triggered Jesse severely, causing him to begin acting out publicly. He was partying heavy with people twice his age who used him for sex and fed into his careless, reckless behavior, which they aggressively encouraged. Jesse Barbs found it hard to tame the beast with nothing but dark, evil, wicked, and twisted people, places, and things all around him. The shadow side of fame and fortune got the best of him, but sadly, he wasn't the only one. Many child stars suffered the same fate as Jesse in the entertainment industry. It's the big secret no one ever speaks about. All child stars are treated like little puppets to the adult puppet masters all around them. Sadly, the general public have no idea what their favorite celebrities go through on a daily basis, especially the tiny tot and teen fans of child stars who often wish they were in their place, living the supposed good life. Unfortunately, no one except those who are in the know are aware of just how many rejects are amongst the flooded cesspool of child entertainers that don't make it to levels of fame and fortune. Yet, the rejects are used and abused in many other ways, then just tossed aside like they're nothing. Many of the industry's rejected children were essentially pimped out and or rented out by their own parents or guardians who are paid handsomely for their donation. Depending on their skills, if any, many are used in temporary projects. They serve as extras or fill ins on films such as movies, kids shows, also commercials, modeling, backup dancers, or any other positions they're needed for. Usually, these gigs don't last very long, but several of them are preferred for far more nefarious purposes as well. A majority of the rejected children are hired as escorts and funneled to lavish hotels, yachts, jets, penthouses, mansions, secret islands, underground tunnels, and caves for exclusive adult entertainment private parties, which are like away camps for the rich and famous. And once the kids are no longer usable, then they are dismissed as damaged collateral goods. The rejected children's parents are paid for the use of the child as they turn a blind eye to the things forced upon them. By the time of their ultimate departure, if they survive, many of the children are ruined in more ways than one. They are given drugs to suppress their memory and put under mind control to ensure their silence. If ever they speak out of their abuses, they are deemed as liars or mentally ill, and if need be, put in mental institutions for fraudulent treatment. As awful as that may be, there is still a network of industry breeders that produce solely for the purposes of the industry. Breeders are paid very high salary to provide children for the wealthy elite. Some are surrogates who birth children for celebrities, yet other surrogates provide children that are particularly bred for the purposes of becoming future child star celebrities, as well as some are bred to be trained and groomed as future leaders and government officials. These specialty offsprings are hidden within wealthy elite families, out of sight of the unsuspecting general public. The child future leaders of America are satanically, ritualistically abused from birth. However, many other of these surrogate children who are determined as weak or undesirable are never seen or heard of at all, and the masses are ignorant to their existence anyway, so they are never missed. If people knew just how many children go missing and are killed annually, they would be grossly flabbergasted by such knowledge. Furthermore, the unlucky, wretched bunches of rejected bastard children are used and abused until their untimely departure when they are abruptly disposed of. The battered babies are trafficked on yachts or private planes to secluded mansions, secret islands, underground caves, and tortured bunkers and laboratories, all of which are interconnected by secret hidden tunnels. The children are then housed in cages until they face their final demise of satanic rituals, blood sacrifices, experimentation, cannibalism, and sexual perversions. A shadow group of elite handlers operate the underground network of day to day top secret functions who have such high profile connections they're protected by the government. The network is connected to the sex trade, which include a sex ring, prostitution ring, strip clubs, international human trafficking, and the porn industry. More than 800,000 children go missing yearly in the United States alone due to kidnappings, abductions, and planned setups by sold out families who have offered up their children for sacrifice for monetary gain. They are never found, seen, or heard from ever again due to the billion-dollar business of the sex industry and fraudulent adoption organizations, of which is with discretion directly connected to very wealthy elites who are powerful, influential persons around the world. Jesse Barbs and many other famous child stars are exposed to this very horrific reality, which they are exploited within. The famously abused victims, Of the young stars that did make it big in the entertainment industry, such as Britt Sperling, Mandy Bims, Katina Piersley, Orland Bronze, Millie Siron, Lindy Lohitz, Karina Hilson, Corian Fieldings, Ariana Gonzalez, and Ravina Simmons only names a handful of other young celebrities who were conditioned by beta sex kitten programming, Monarch programming, Disney theme programming, and MK Ultra trauma-based mind control. Each of them are abused physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and sexually. They are often forced to go to brainwashing facilities, psych wards, and cloning labs as a form of torture. Intimidation tactics are used to bully the youngsters into submission, as well as they are implanted with tracking devices and or RFID chips. Celebrity children are routinely drugged, pimped out, passed around, and prostituted while being summoned to orgy mansion sex parties. They are forced and persuaded to indulge in sexual activity with each other while their adult handler lookers watch and record, after which the adults in attendance actively participate in sexual interaction with them as well. The child stars are introduced to cross dressing, sex magic, devil worship, cannibalism, homosexuality, ritualistic practices, and bestiality. As if sexual harassment, rape, sodomy, molestation, torture, and terroristic threatening weren't enough, celebrity child stars are even forced to watch and participate in murder, blood sacrifices of babies and other young children of all ages, as well as animal sacrifices. As do they consume bodily fluids of all kinds by demand, such as blood, semen, urine, and other ungodly things that are drunk in satanic ceremonies, making the horrendous lifestyle of a child star far from glamorous behind the scenes. Only a unified front is put on display publicly for the fans, followers, and world to see. But if only the masses could see the innocence that has been stolen from young celebrities that are put on display to entertain their children. Nobody knows of the little souls that have been ripped from them, nor do anyone seem to see the sadness that fills their eyes as they are programmed and triggered to play pretend that everything is okay and they are happy and doing just fine while heavily under mind control. Nevertheless, Jesse Barbs is now trapped in a fantasy land of illusion, exceedingly spiraling out of control in his fabulously lavish, cush life of delusion. His pain was apparent for anyone with eyes to see, although no one came to his rescue. Meanwhile, he continued to numb himself from his never ending misery. Regardless of his external actions, Jesse was screaming for help inside. Then came a new low genre of deception in the form of a godly savior, who later turned out to be yet another false prophet pimping behind the pulpit. The master of disguise. After countless occurrences of humiliation, Hollywood scandals, explosive outbursts, and outrageous public breakdowns, by Jesse's early 20s, his team attempted an intervention to preserve Jesse's sweet, good old boy image. Those nearest and dearest to him could care less about improving Jesse's life and actually helping him. They only cared about keeping the money train flowing for their own sake. However, to bamboozle the general public, a publicity stunt was staged, giving the appearance Jesse was serious about changing his life for the better, and eager to straighten up his life, get sober, and embrace his spiritual/religious side. All of a sudden, a new crew of cons centered themselves around Jesse. Ironically, now vastly only surrounded by mostly white, Caucasian, or other race individuals than he usually occupied his time with, publicly and subliminally making it look like all Jesse's black or brown skinned associates was solely his problem and he needed to be redeemed and whisked away by his own kind away from them to save him, when in fact the satanic powers that be set the whole thing up from the very beginning. Jesse began somewhat of a sober living programming and counseling sessions to supposedly help him regain balance in his life. It was then when Jesse was introduced to the smoothest criminal of them all in the game, Carlton Leavenworth, a megachurch pastor of Hill's Hope Song, a pop rock themed New Age church many celebrities and other middle class to upper class individuals attended. It was nothing more than a religious shit show for the fake and phony sellouts, a place where the secular world and religion flirted heavily with each other, blurring the lines of Christianity and promiscuity for the New Age generation. Jesse thought he had seen and experienced it all until he met his new mentor/handler, recruited to save his soul and free him from the bondage of sin. Jesse soon found out he was the biggest hypocrite of them all because the menacing man was a warlock and superb in mind control techniques as if he were an agent for the CIA. But it wasn't long before Jesse found himself on his knees begging please yet again, and it surely wasn't for prayer. Pastor Carlton was a charlatan, parading around like God's gift of glory while grooming and spoiling a young man in crisis. He paid more attention to Jesse than his own wife, who is clearly his beard, playing pretend in all his shenanigans. The pair enjoyed staged interviews together like a couple to display Jesse as a sober success story, took lavish trips for vacation, lounged on the beach together like two bro bays in a romance, had sleepovers, and he was pampered with expensive gifts, which was the pastor's holy love language to heal Jesse Barbs. As creepily perverse as it was, obviously, Pastor Carlton had the magic touch that made Jesse straighten right on up. Unbelievable to some, but Jesse Barbs seemingly turned over a new leaf in life. The fact of the matter is, he actually was rebranded, reprogrammed, and given a whole new image now that he was grown. Between tour dates when things were slowing down in Jesse's career. But of course, his handlers took the opportunity to make a man out of him, considering speculations, accusations, and rumors began to circulate online due to Jesse's bizarre relationship with Pastor Carlton. and not to mention his viral nightclub rendezvous that was leaked of him in compromising positions with other celebrities. Fame transition, adult celebrity life. Yes, his behavior was better, but now fans and followers noticed he was acting strangely and suspected him of being gay or bi-curious at least. So Jesse's team took the initiative by arranging for him yet another relationship between him and Bailey, which would later be set up to become an arranged marriage. Bailey Barbs became Jesse's paid op contract wife handler, of whom, per contractual agreement, birthed Jesse's firstborn child. Publicly, Jesse Barbs was instantly seen as the sweet, boyishly young looking heterosexual family man. It was all a publicity stunt, though. And underneath the facade, Jesse was still unhappy because he was yet and still being manipulated and controlled. But he played his role very well anyway, because after all, what choice did he really have to refuse? Which is what he continues to do to this very day. Over the years, Jesse Barbs continued to rock the stage with his amazing talents, skills, and abilities while juggling being both husband and father too. He has worked hard and even managed to still be seen as a relevant artist today amongst many others in his genre at the top of their game. But after several years, Jesse's management for the third time was changed yet again, and now he's being managed by Edwin Whitten. Much of the industry is the same. Nothing has changed the cringe-worthy, low-down, dirty doings behind the scenes. But lately, salacious scandals have shaken the very foundation of the entertainment industry. Breaking scandalous news. As if Henry Wines and George Epson wasn't enough, sneaky, freaky, creepy for the world. But ironically, even some of Jesse's abusers from his childhood have gotten themselves caught up because of their wicked ways. The internet and media are buzzing every day with viral updates about Shondaland Poppy Commons' recent house raids and arrests. Lately, the most trending topics have been about human trafficking, prostitution, sex crimes, and other abuses of power by very wealthy and powerful people in the entertainment business. Many of Shondaland's affiliates have even been named, and people have anxiously been waiting and wondering if Jesse Barbs would speak out like other celebrities about his experiences or what he had endured during the time he was in their company. However, Jesse's management and handlers aren't having that and have kept him tight-lipped about what he knows, perhaps to prevent any further outrage over the matter. Not to mention, the unspoken truth of Jesse doing such a thing would likely be a surefire way for the powers that be to silence him and end his career forever, as that is always the open-ended threat that lingers over the heads of celebrities. Ducked off. Currently, at the strapping age of 30 years old, Jesse Barbs still has his place in the entertainment industry. Of course, things have slowed down a bit since he was a tween. However, he is still on the scene doing his thing center stage for all his crazed fans to see. These days, for a celeb, one of the main goals is to keep the bad publicity down, paparazzi at bay, and to stay out of the tabloids for negative reasons if at all possible. Jesse is no different, as he and his family try to keep a low profile, especially with all of the scandalous things going on lately. Unfortunately, Jesse's name just keeps being circulated amongst the drama, which is why he has been missing in action for a while now, thanks to his handlers. As a result, he has been staying to himself in hermit mode, at least for the time being. But who knows what the future holds as the industry's low-down and dirty little secrets continue to unfold publicly. Suppose only time will tell. Meanwhile, without coincidence, California, in mountains of evidence, burns rapidly for no good reasons other than a staged event. Hashtag save the children. The end.
That concludes today's story time. I do hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment. Donations to support the growth of my channel and content are welcomed and greatly appreciated at Cash App $TiffDiamond36. For story ideas on something you'd like me to write, please feel free to contact me at tiff.diamond.36@gmail.com.